Hey, welcome to another episode of the Startup Voyage podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about why brands should enter the metaverse. Today, we are joined by the CEO of Future is Meta, Weronkia Marciniak, and she's leading a metaverse agency that helps brands get into this virtual world and create new ways to engage with its customer base. Now, Veronica has been at the forefront of the metaverse industry for several years. She's got a lot of experience to share, and that's why I brought her on. And her expertise has been recognized by a lot of major brands, in which she's done a lot of great work. And her team itself helps to provide a full scope of services, including unique design and development and deployment. So she's got a lot of great experience to share with us today. And yes, as mentioned, let's start the conversation and figure out why brands should enter the metaverse. Hello, everyone. This is Arthur Lee, and this is your host for the Startup Voyage podcast. And today, we've got a very special episode. We're going to dive deep into the phenomenon of the metaverse and why brands should be investing their time into understanding why they should be part of this virtual realm. So joining us today is Weronkia Mar, and she is the founder of Future is Meta. And she's a guest today to reveal her understanding and her experience in the market working with brands, the motivation behind getting into the metaverse, and maybe a little understanding of why there's so much investment going into this space. So I want to welcome you to the podcast, Weronkia, and it's great to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Great. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm really glad to be here, especially now with Hong Kong really opening up and really pushing towards innovation in this space. And with the new VR headsets that were announced this month, I think it's an exciting time to discuss Metaverse.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just checked them out. I can't wait till they actually release those. But the concept and what it potentially can do sounds exciting. So let's put some context. Tell our audience a little bit more about the Future is Meta and your mission and what you're trying to build.
Sure. So I'm actually originally an architect, and I've worked on large-scale commercial and cultural buildings on projects around the world for various boutique design studios. And that's where we usually had the chance to work with, the newest technology, including virtual reality. So I had the chance to see over time how much more accessible these devices have become and how much more aligned with digital software. So at some point after moving to Hong Kong and being also exposed to Web3, a lot of Web3 topics, there's really a great amount of projects that originated from here. I've realized that there is also space for trained designers in the metaverse, because how I see it is actually creating a new it's like blank canvas that needs to be somehow designed. It needs to be taken care of, and at the moment it's completely dominated by game designers, which is fair enough. It's that's actually how it was how it was built, and that's a great thing. But I believe that to bring these virtual worlds and metaverse spaces to the level that actually brands and enterprise users are looking for, we need trained specialists to design them. That's how I got into this space, and I was very lucky to find my CTO, who's taking care of the technical side of things and really exploring different platforms, different use cases that we provide for our clients.
Okay, so the metaverse in itself, if you were to describe it for people who don't know what it is, how would you explain it in, let's say, 3 sentences?
Sorry, one more time.
Oh, how would you describe what a metaverse is, or what metaverse is for brands that maybe don't understand this? Yeah.
I guess everyone may have a different definition. There's many. How I look at the metaverse is an evolution of websites. I even like to call it a spatial internet of space. So interconnected platforms that bring the online experience to be a little bit more immersive.
Okay. So there was a point in time, I don't know if your background is in building like offline physical visuals for different stores. But there was a time where the Internet of Things, right, where people focused on bringing online to offline experiences for the brands, giving that to their customers. Now this is a little bit different, so we're going basically online to online, but the immersive experience is felt offline, I mean, in the real world, I guess. Did you see much difference in how brands, is it still important to give them a different experience, and who are they targeting exactly?
I think at the moment it's really everyone starting to realize how many teenagers are playing around or spending their time in virtual worlds, and brands are looking to tap into that audience and to prepare for what's soon about to happen when the teenagers become actually customers. So I think there is a mix of new audience, new types of products, and really this new virtual space that we don't exactly know which way it will go or what it will be, but I think a safe bet is just to look at it as really progressing with your online presence.
Right. Okay. So building a metaverse, I can imagine, it takes more than just your CTO to build the product itself. What type of collaborations have you fostered, either on the innovation side, different stakeholders I can imagine are in the space to help support the metaverse and what you're building? Can
Sure.
you talk a little bit more about who you're working with?
Of course. So actually, there's often people think that we are building our own metaverse, which is not the case. So I will just clarify here, because that is a huge amount of work and funds to make something a metaverse platform, like a standalone metaverse platform, to work and to be pleasant to use. So only a few succeeded. Even those who may be very well known and have a lot of partnerships not always have a working solution, which is unfortunately not helping the public image of the metaverse. But we work with existing platforms like Decentraland, Spatial. So we really leverage the technology prepared by larger platforms. We're partners of Decentraland. That's definitely so far my favorite kind of collaboration, because it's a DAO, it's a decentralized autonomous organization. They keep their code open sourced, and it's more of a you can be a platform that gives a lot of freedom to brands entering this space and to designers wanting to create something. And the freedom goes to the extent of actually even setting up your own server and doing a copy of that world on your own, as long as in some ways it's connected there. So this kind of partnerships are always very interesting, and there's more of them as every month we have some new platforms that become useful for various reasons.
Right.
But also, of course, in this space, for us, it actually is enough to, when in a team we have one or two designers and one or two developers. So it's the projects are very manageable if you have trained trained team who knows what they're doing. It doesn't actually have to be a huge project that takes a long time. But of course, we currently focus on custom features and custom solutions for our clients. So we usually collaborate also with the game developers or marketing experts. There's a lot of discussions and a lot of brainstorming sessions across different people from different backgrounds.
Right. So you also build in Roblox. How's that as an experience? I've been on it before. I'm just very curious.
Yes. So Roblox, it's huge now. It is where the most users are. And wonderful part about it is that it's not only available on your laptop but also on the phone. So coming really closer to everyone's preference. I think it's an interesting space to explore, and it's wonderful how open it is. I know that there are actually coding schools for children, or teenagers. I've seen a coding school for like kindergarten level students, where the youngest creatives can develop their little worlds, or not so little, depends on how devoted they are, but that also leaves the door open to brands building their presence. So it's interesting to see Walmart there. It's interesting to see Gucci, and how they, maybe sometimes they promote their products, and sometimes they just focus on brand awareness and developing, maybe teaching about sustainable fashion, or teaching about some different topics that may be related to their industry or not. Sometimes they are, as we discussed earlier, actually, maybe they may be CSR, corporate social responsibility initiatives. It's quite an open field. I guess there are maybe questions about how moral certain things are or not, but I haven't seen anything immoral, and also it's quite controlled. Right. So if there is anything wrong going on, it's online. It's quite easy to shut it down, to block access to it, and also users have the control of, they can always turn off their screen. So I think being offended in this virtual space, like we at least have this layer of protection.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I can imagine. For going back to the schools, there's this one I saw online called ID Tech, and for sure they teach teenagers, or even younger than that, to learn how to code for creating a game in Minecraft or Roblox. So I think that's very, very useful. And that is tapping into the next generation. I can imagine a lot of brands are looking at this space because that is the next generation of consumers. So tap into that, segment early, I guess, is the thinking, right? Even, I guess, people in college. Well, why don't you share, we just mentioned, a case study in a way, or, teaching about sustainability. Let's talk about some of the projects that you're supporting now in the Metaverse. Maybe you go through a couple of use cases that we can talk through.
Sure. Well, I think the most recent interesting project that we've done was reaching out to younger tech talent and connecting them with a retail bank that maybe is our Polish client, and maybe considered a very traditional company with, that is maybe difficult, where it is difficult to reach their employees or get an open conversation. We actually created a virtual job fair with them, where the HR department prepared incredible amount of content displayed in Decentraland platform, so available for everyone with just a link. You could just access using a link in your browser, and walk around this virtual space full of information about how to apply, how to actually prepare in case if this is your first job, how to really teaching actually young maybe students or young talent about the good practice and opportunities that the bank is going to provide for them. And then there was also a live streaming session, which was quite a lot informal than would probably be if it was an event in a different space. Employees of different departments were sharing their insights and their stories with this metaverse audience. So that was quite successful, very well received, and it seems that we're still waiting for like their final assessment of that. But I heard very good news so far in terms of actually candidates who applied and how many good applications came through this way. So that was that's quite something that was not too expected. On a side note, these live events that we organize with clients that may relate to different topics also seem to be a very good team building experience on the client side, because this space is so confusing. Even you mentioned that it's good to define what we think when we say metaverse, because it's so unclear and there may be so much confusion around this space. So I've realized that for our clients, it is actually good to create, their moments of internal meetings and play with this and see what they can get out of this space.
Right. Well, I think on perception wise, right? So if I was imagining I was back in college looking for a job, having access to something like the metaverse in order to discover a company and going through the process, right? I think that's it says a lot about the culture and about the country, the company itself. If we go and interview people why they select the company, a lot of times it is the culture, it's the people that work there, it's what they stand for, their purpose, the meaning, some of this, will resonate with a lot of these younger generations. So I think for sure, the perception wise, it kind of shows the company as healthy, young, forward thinking. And I think in this time in the world, I don't want to seem like a dinosaur in a new world, right? And I guess maybe that's I think that's a very good thing. So as a brand themselves, when they look at the metaverse and when you're out doing your BD, what is the expectation? Like, what are you really trying to sell to them, or what do they think that they're looking at? Is it like a marketing tactic and let's try this? What's the response? Yeah.
There is a mix of a few things. Of course, it started especially last year or 2 years ago. There was a huge craze around the metaverse, and a lot of people leveraged that marketing aspect. But for it to really make sense, we're looking into more long-term applications. So really working with clients who have either a digital product in mind or want to build to increase their actually brand awareness through this space by maybe also bringing people to this space multiple times is a lot easier than to invite them just to a website. You can create engaging games with rewards. You can allow people to actually meet their meet new, let's say, fans of the brand or collaborators, or in case an interesting project we worked on is wine investments, was another very traditional actually company, French wine distributor who is looking to popularize wine investment among the younger crowd, or just broader audience. So they usually have meetings, like monthly or quarterly meetings in France that, of course, can only hold a limited number of people, and this industry is considered a little bit exclusive. Well, they really are keen on opening up to more international members, and to, at least to create more of a discussion about this. And through the NFT technology, it is possible to actually invest small amounts in something that's very valuable, and you actually don't need to, in terms of wine, you don't need to physically have it to own it. So the NFT is a simple way to kind of actually for someone to feel like they participate in it without much effort. And our Metaverse pop-up headquarters in this case exists as a space that is open to public during the live events. So it is every time customized to show the current topic that's being discussed. There's also lots of content, educational content, and a digital event, which means that along with the physical event in one place or multiple places in the world, there is also the worldwide event in the metaverse where you can meet fellow avatars and discuss what you think.
Well, so are you saying, is there ever going to be an ability, let's say you built in the sandbox and you've got people inside in the space that, for a brand, but could you also build a separate place in Roblox, but they can cross universes? I guess, if that makes sense, is that possible?
I think at the moment, not really. It's like, it's probably like if you set up your account on Facebook and Instagram, they are somewhat linked. They got linked eventually, but in the very beginning, they were very separate platforms, and there wasn't much interoperability aside from the fact that if you can have one open in one tab of your screen and the other one in the other tab, right? So I would look at it more this way.
Okay.
Although, of course, eventually, like bringing the Web3 aspect and logging with a wallet, and potentially having assets that come with instances wearable for various worlds that will blend a little bit more.
Right.
But so far, it's really more of an individual platform, each of them. And one thing that I would say maybe is worth pointing out is that they also have very different points of access, because Decentraland is my favorite for many reasons, but only available on the browser and if you download the software. It is very open for designers and brands to create their own unique solutions. So that's the advantage here. But there are platforms that are more available, like Spatial is available also on your phone and on your VR headset. And you can have a crowd using various devices. They can be in the same virtual space. I think that's quite fantastic. While other platforms like Sandbox, as far as I know, still only exists on Windows download like installed program. So they meant to reveal something by the end of the year. I'm very curious to see what it's going to be. But I haven't seen the mobile application yet.
Okay. Well, let's talk about going back to brands. So, if a brand is interested in metaverse, yes, maybe they heard it's trending, there's all this money going into it. How would you advise brands to get into the space?
I think proof of concept is always a great way. Finding, maybe deciding to build something, a presence. So build their headquarters that and implement it in one of the existing platforms. I actually see that long-term brands will probably try to build their presence in various virtual worlds. I don't think there needs to be a choice. You can have your shop in Paris and in Milan. You don't need to choose. Like the same way it happens online. You can have your shop in Roblox and you can have your shop in Decentraland, and perhaps in Sandbox as well. So each of these platforms has slightly different features. So I guess to start with, it's good to have an overall idea what needs to be achieved, and then try and implement it in the preferred platform. That's probably an interesting one. I see brands like Gucci are testing the waters in different multiple media at the same time, creating NFT tokens, NFT physical products that are related to digital ownership, etc. But not everyone can afford it, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Actually, it's probably we usually compare like the proof of concept to like a good sized physical event. And the advantage here is that this can last. So if organizing a single physical event is great and it's a wonderful experience, but it expires very quickly, and especially in places like Hong Kong, it's quite expensive. The space is what is the most expensive. And then actually, in terms of maybe a little bit, sustainability angle, when we look at conferences or larger events that need a lot of decoration, that need a lot of unique setup, it all goes to waste, unfortunately. As soon as the event is over, nobody keeps it. So there's this small sustainable element to digitalizing parts of it to keep the value for long term and avoid waste.
Well, would you then recommend some of these brands that may want to test it out to be part of another location in the metaverse? Meaning, so we've got the MTR Corporation. They've acquired, a bunch of land in the sandbox. They've had brands join them to build, I guess, their storefronts or whatnot. And in fact, it's almost like, it sounds like you can like lease a space in their land, but then you're then in a city, I guess, where other people are in already. So then maybe you get more visibility in your brand. Would that be something to consider?
I think it's worth to focus on how users can access certain solutions and what they can do, rather than who else is in this space. Because I think we're still experiencing a little bit of an aftermath of this metaverse boom last year, where many brands jumped in, but not all of them actually built something. So I think it's important to be a little bit careful and to really know, to really look for use cases that work for a certain industry.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense because, everyone's outcome and what they want to get out of it or what they're testing is going to be different. And yeah, for sure, a lot of people probably went into the metaverse to jump on the train and say, hey, look, I'm there too, right? Oh, we're cool. So, you've got different scenarios. I mean, you've got building a metaverse to create virtual events that you said you can leverage and use all time and time again. You've got play and earn concept, online games, product placement type of things. And like you mentioned, Gucci for sure. I can only imagine using like VR, AR glasses to like enter the metaverse, but then feel that experience that feels like you're in a store, looking at a product as if it's right in front of me. Things like that, I think I can imagine happening.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what type of talent? I'm just kind of curious. You're building out your team, and this is a new space. What type of talent does the metaverse draw in? Like, if you were to, someone who says, "Okay, I want to one day work in this vertical with metaverse," what type of skills do you need?
Very valuable Unity developers, Unreal engine specialists. Software developers are essential to this space, but I think we've realized that there is an element of design, spatial design, actually, which architects and urban planners bring. That's quite important, and it's usually a little bit overlooked, I feel. So we're trying to bring more of those colleagues along with us on the journey, and training architects and starting a discussion among within architectural association to really promote this space. I'm hoping. I've been involved with Hong Kong University for a while now as a guest lecturer, and just trying to figure this aspect out with them. I think it seems that there is interest to really push this education a little bit more. So far, it's few architects are in this space, but it seems that there will be more coming. And as I see, there are various American companies that actually metaverse agencies that acquired small architectural studios, and they seem to be very successful. So that proves to be the key collaboration between a trained designer and a software developer. It works quite well.
Okay. Oh, well, let's talk from I guess compliance regulation point of view. It might be a little bit dry, but yeah, with email, we have rules on how you approach people on email. You have certain rules how you just market to people. What do you consider in metaverse? What policies and regulations need to be in place, or do you have to oversee?
Well, to be honest, I actually had a big conversation about regulations this morning. Fortunately, I can't say who it was with, but yes, it's this question, especially recently, have been asked. So it's very relevant. How I look at it is only a matter of cybersecurity. So anything that a website has to deal with, Metaverse has to deal with too. It may be even safer than most traditional websites, but I think that maybe in terms of regulations, the knowledge gap needs to be bridged. So those who decide on what's right and what's wrong will have a long journey or hopefully quickly also will catch up on this. It's a steep learning curve. I know myself, like transitioning to this space. It took me a few months to understand, but it's not impossible. And I don't think there needs to be and there's nothing like urgent that's worrying that needs to be immediately regulated, apart from, I would say, maybe urban planning in the metaverse in case of larger platforms, but that I'm joking about, because platforms like Decentraland, for example, those that sold land in like a larger, how it looks is that you have a big open space divided into square parcels, and everyone had a chance to buy their virtual plots. Some people could bought multiple, others bought single ones. So then what happens actually, I'm not sure how the map of that virtual land was developed, but sometimes you may end up with a plot of land that's completely surrounded by buildings, and the only access there is, you know, through the roof because your neighbors built walls. So there are some funny examples like this that probably happen in early stage technology, where, you know, everyone has the best intention, doesn't always make the best outcome, but thankfully, you know, it is the metaverse. So actually you can always teleport also to these plots, so it's still fine. But I think there is always risk of translating real world use cases one-to-one to digital space. So I see I wish there was somehow maybe, you know, a banner somewhere flying around the world saying don't do that, because this digital space has very different kind of properties and different functionality than real world. So we need to learn how to deal with that and how to actually create products and types of events that work with this and leverage this technology rather than struggling.
Okay. Well, I guess when it comes to policies, I can imagine like any website, they have a disclaimer, or maybe if you're on social media, there's a rules of conduct, right? Because you're in a community. I can imagine Roblox to Sandbox to Decentralized, there's a Decentraland, they're all different. So does a brand need to understand like the specifics for each one, depending on where they want to build?
Yeah, so each of them has that. Each platform has that. It's hard to talk about all of them in general, because some are like decentralized or community projects, so completely decentralized, run by a foundation, and foundation is built of owners of the land, so for initial buyers. Then there are platforms like Spatial and Journey or Metaverse, these very beautiful kind of 3D websites which are owned by a private company. And then there are instances like Sandbox, which is, I believe, a bit of a mix of both, because it is a decentralized world, but also run by very strongly by a centralized brand. So I think it's such a diverse space that rules of conduct will be different for each of them, and each of them has I think full rights to define them.
Right. Okay. What do you see as sort of like, let's say lots of things happen, like you said, there's a big trend in the last year and a half in the metaverse. What do you think will be different? Like, let's predict a year and a half out. What do you think will change in this space?
I think the accessibility is becoming pretty increasing. And real use cases now, especially with the quite negative sentiment over the last months towards the metaverse, I see that a lot of this hype has died out, and I often hear concern about actually, not doing things just for once, but thinking long term. So clients are very careful, which I hope will result in good quality, a lot of good quality projects. These projects can be done very quickly, but we sometimes can develop things within 3 months. But honestly speaking, for a brand to integrate metaverse to their core, to their core function, it takes a lot longer, and it's a bit of an exercise on both the internal and external operations.
Okay. So I guess if we want to see Metaverse go mainstream, what changes do you think need to happen? What type of partnerships, what type of technology needs to be in place, what type of talent needs to be in place to make it, let's say, move forward 10% in the next year where more brands are using it? What needs to happen?
Well, recent news about the headset by Apple certainly help. The clear, it's becoming clear that hardware is being improved. Maybe still not. Maybe the Apple headset is still not affordable, but there is a Meta alternative, Meta Quest, also announced to have a new edition. So I think with this new device, I also heard a few companies are trying to develop something that's more of an accessory for your phone that lets you see phone content in the glasses. I think this kind of projects really need to drive the way, and for Metaverse platforms to be opening up also to mobile and this. I think actually in this case, how I see interoperability in a maybe not exactly, but actually what I see is important that each of these virtual platforms, if they create a mobile version of themselves and VR, that's usually the most exciting mix, because mobile is very accessible and VR is very impactful. So if I can wear my VR headset and meet you while you're just using your phone because it's more convenient for you, that would be great. Or then we can reverse. I think making it easy for people to use and to get into it is essential.
Sure. Yeah, I had a couple experiences that I've heard, and also from other people, that sometimes using these goggles, you can feel a little bit nauseous, depending what you're playing. So I think it takes some time to get used to, for sure. But yeah, I think the younger generation, if they've been doing it from an early age, they're quite accustomed to it.
I think. Actually, the younger audience usually uses their either tablet or laptop.
Okay.
They don't necessarily use VR headsets. And I've actually seen. I don't know if you've seen the Spotify story about how Spotify, in the very beginning of creating the streaming service, they really struggled with latency. I think it's a common theme for everything in technology, that before someone nails it, it's just a little bit clunky, but it is possible. And I believe that I haven't tried Apple device, and I'm unfortunately not in any way near it, but I heard that the experience in the Apple headset is nearly perfect.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Someone, yeah.
I'd love to see that. I think, what's the price point? USD $400, $500, is that right? I don't know how many versions they have or models.
So Apple headset, I think it's 3,000 US, 3 or 4,000 US.
Oh, US. I'm sorry. I was thinking Hong Kong dollars, so that's why I said 400 to 500.
The Oculus headset is around 400.
Got it.
The current, I believe that the current one and the one they announced to be on sale by the end of the year, they're both in a similar price point. So they're trying to be, to be affordable. I think these days, something that costs $3,000 is about the same amount as you pay for the phone.
Yeah.
Or even less. Depends on what kind of phone. So I think that's really reasonable. Maybe $3,000 US is beyond beyond that, but also with what they did, I think it's packed with a lot of new technology, and not only the experience is smoother, but it's usable without hand controllers.
Yeah.
So the cameras built into the headset actually track your hand movement. So by like kind of touching the air, you can select things and open files on your computer. Or your spatial computer.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, so
Okay.
it's really the future. I'm super excited to see how it works.
Same here. Same here. All right. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question before we conclude this podcast. But you yourself has experienced building the business around the metaverse. There's probably many other entrepreneurs considering getting into the space. What do you provide as advice for aspiring entrepreneurs to come into this space, and where can they make impact? Where's there a gap in the talent, perhaps?
I think it's really, it depends on the background. It's important to be very passionate and really clearly see the outcome in this space. It's very easy to get lost, or things can get blurred. So also not falling under the current trend is I think is quite important. Of course, it's great to read and understand what's going on, but to focus on something that we believe in long term, and then align with partners. Or I see a lot of groups and kind of social, half social, half professional communities in this space that can be very supportive without asking for any equity or anything in return. So I'm also part of a few of those, and it's a wonderful space. It's very, very much alive. Not sure if it's also the case in different places in the world, but in Hong Kong, we have lots of networking events, lots of panels, lots of conferences. And by participating in those, you get exposed to what's going on. So I would recommend starting there and figuring out for everyone,
Yeah.
they need to find their own path.
Well, you know what? I think that's what I was going to summarize. I mean, if anyone aspiring to get into the space, whether you're a founder or not, this is a common theme. This is the decentralized world. Go find a project, attach yourself to it, chip in, learn from actually doing, learn from other people. I think projects would be appreciated to get different mindsets coming in and helping out to kind of build what the future is going to be. All right. Well, thank you for your time, Weronkia. It was a pleasure to speak with you today, and I'd love to catch up with you at some point in time when you got more use case studies and maybe something that's changed in the metaverse. I'd love to bring you on again to talk about and share your experience.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice speaking to you.
Hey, so that concludes this episode of the Startup Voyage podcast. I would like to thank all of you for listening to this episode, and I'd really appreciate it if you leave any type of comments that you'd like to share, because it helps to feedback on how I deliver these podcasts, and I definitely want to improve it to continue to add more value to the audience. Now, you can follow us on many of the popular podcast channels: Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Equally, I'm going to be uploading all of these episodes onto YouTube. So it's more than just audio, it's video. You can see everyone's faces. Look, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And I'm always open to new ideas or looking for new guests. So if you know anyone in the space of Web3 that is an influencer or a leader or someone who's really trying to shape what Web3 will be in the future, I'd love to hear from them. All right. So yeah, just comment below. You can DM me. I have all my information in the details underneath this podcast episode. So yeah, thank you for joining me today, and have a great one. See you in the next episode.